Good evening and welcome to YNPN Cleveland's Managing Career Transitions virtual webinar series. My name is Miranda Mueller and I am the Program Board Co-Chair for YNPN Cleveland. I will be leading tonight's workshop. This is our first session of the four-part series. So tonight's topic is resume writing and LinkedIn profiles, but we will have upcoming webinars on networking, video conferencing and video interviews, and then interview follow-ups and how to solicit feedback. So stay posted for those. So again, tonight's topic is resume writing and LinkedIn profiles. In this webinar, we will discuss the role of artificial intelligence in the application process, review tips to strengthen your resume, practice the CAR method, review standard resume format guidelines, discuss the LinkedIn profile checklist, and review advanced LinkedIn tricks for your profile. Starting with artificial intelligence. Did you know that AI commences the application review process? According to Capterra, roughly 75% of hiring managers utilize artificial intelligence. This is most frequently used through ATS or application tracking software. So what this does is it scans resumes that were sent in for a job position, and it searches through the applicants to find certain criteria that the hiring manager has preset. So this takes the form of keywords. When you are looking through a job description, you might notice that there are words that are repeated or certain skill sets that are listed as desirable. I recommend that when you are reading through that, you either make a list or print out the application and highlight words that either keep reappearing or are related to a skill set. Once you have that list or those highlighted words, those will become your keywords. And it will become important when you are creating your resume to then incorporate those keywords. So, as I was just saying, how to move beyond AI and application process, the first and most important step is to match those keywords that were in the job description. So if you created the list or highlighted those words, it then becomes a lot easier when you are creating your resume for that application to incorporate in those skill sets and incorporate in those words. And then when you submit your application and AI scans through it, you hopefully will trigger the software to mark you as an applicant for further review, and then you will continue on to the actual hiring managing staff at the organization or employer. In addition to those keywords, you also want to make sure to incorporate soft skills and hard skills that are personal to you. So these might be things that you didn't notice within the job description or were only mentioned once, but are skills that you consider yourself to be strong in and that you feel would still be valuable to your employer or the organization. So soft skills would be those skills that you realize and you don't need a particular knowledge set for. So this might look like teamwork, this might look like communication. On the other hand, hard skills are skill sets that are often learned through a certification process or require training. So this might be a software, for example, could be Razor's Edge, could be Salesforce, um, something that you have a particular knowledge base in that therefore is a unique skill that you bring. Strong resumes center on your value. So I would like to continue with this webinar and proceed into a YouTube video. So I recently found a video that was a TED Talk that was given that described the career stories method. And this is a method that turns your resume away from more of the traditional layout and focuses on the particular skill sets that you have and highlighting those, as opposed to the rundown of these are my past positions and your experience section. So to better explain that, I will bring up the video. It is titled Burn Your Old Resume, The Future of Work is Here by Carrie Twig. Give it just a moment to load.
So when you write plays or screenplays, you can take, and you're kind of lost about where it should go, you write each scene on an index card, and then you lay them out. This is the bed. You lay them out on a bed. And then you play around with the order of them until the story has flow. And then you know it's good. And I decided to do this with my career stories. And I call it the career stories method. And you could do it too. So what I did is that I wrote out a story of work that I was really proud of for 7 days, all on a little index card. And after 7 days, I took those cards and I flipped them over, well, I read them, and on the back of them, I identified the strength that I used in each of those stories. So it might be collaboration, organization, was good to other people, helped, those kinds of things. So I wrote those stories out. And then I looked and went, what skills keep pumping up, keep kind of popping up for me? And then I was like, oh, there's about 3 different categories of skills. And that's the story that I started to share. So I really encourage you to do this method. Do not worry if this story happened like 20 years ago. And don't worry if it happened in school or a volunteer, it still works. One of my...
Okay. And then I'm just gonna jump us ahead a little bit. Make sure. Apologies, my screen stopped sharing there for a moment. Okay, I'm going to jump us ahead a little bit in that video.
You do the index card method, right? You do the career stories method, and then what you can figure out from that when you know your 3 is you can introduce yourself in a new way. You can say, I am really great at boom, 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 super strength, super strength, super strength. And if you take a little bit of extra time to think about where you do your ideal work and who you do your ideal work with, then you can say, yeah, and I do my best work with, and say that. And then you have a career brand, right? I'm great at boom, 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 and I like working with these people. Sounds way better than anything you're going to get from a resume template book. So it pains me. Oh, it pains me because you guys know how I feel about.
Okay. So the career stories method. So again, reiterating, that method focuses on your strengths and highlights those as opposed to following the traditional method of listing your previous experiences in chronological order. So you would still follow chronological order, but it would then focus on certain skills that you want to highlight. So within those, you still want to make sure, as with a traditional resume, that you are utilizing value metrics for your bullet points. So a value metric is a measurable contribution. This could be something such as revenue generated, increases in operational efficiency, customer retention, things that are tangible that you can put numbers into your resume for or list amounts for. All of that would be considered a value metric. So going from the career stories method, which is a more of a storytelling approach to your resume, I would like to take a minute to talk about car statements. So car statements are often utilized in the interview process. When your employer or location that you are applying for poses a question of, tell me about a time when blank happened, and then they want you to give, how you responded and what the result of that was. So car statement is challenge, action, and result. So take a moment, grab a piece of paper, and write down a challenge that you faced, an action that you took, and what the result was. And for this particular exercise, you're going to want to focus on a positive outcome. So we're going to think of this like in the interview process. You wouldn't want to highlight something that went negatively. You want to highlight something that had a positive outcome. And then once you have written that car statement, start to think about how you can incorporate that into your resume. This is kind of in a similar vein to how in the TED Talk they were talking about incorporating your specific strengths. So again, if you can kind of combine these and put in your strengths, but then also list with that strength a time in which you utilized it and you received a positive outcome, that is even better for your resume. So even though I have shared some radical influence approaches to your resume, you still want to follow some standard format guidelines. So this is things like making sure your resume is no longer than 2 pages, making your contact information front and center. So you'll want at the very least to include your full name, your phone number, and your email address. You also want to make sure that you are still listing your strengths in a chronological order under the experience section, and that you're limiting the number of bullet points to between 2 to 4 per strength. Even though you are highlighting your strengths in the experience section, you still want to include a skills section. And again, as I alluded to earlier, even though you might highlight some of the keywords that were listed within the job description, you still want to make sure that you include any hard skills that you have, because you never know how those skills might be valuable to your future employer or organization. And then you still want to make sure that you feature your education and certifications at the bottom of the resume, and that you are following correct tense. So I'm talking about past experiences, use past tense, and then for current experiences and positions, you want to use present tense. So now we're going to shift gears away from resumes and onto LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a professional networking site. It is similar to a resume, but should not be exactly the same as your resume. So I will elaborate on that as we go. So your LinkedIn profile checklist. First off, you want to make sure that you keep your LinkedIn up to date. So you want to make sure that you have your current position listed in your headline, and that you keep your about section up to date as well. Another important thing for your headline and your about section is to make them attention grabbers and personable. So these are the first things that will come up when you are searched on Google or on LinkedIn. So when someone searches your profile, they're going to read that headline. It'll be the first thing they read, and then they're going to see your about section. So keep that in mind. Another important component to your LinkedIn profile is making sure you have a professional picture. So you don't want your profile picture to be something that you would put on Facebook or Instagram or another social media site, meaning that it should be just of yourself. You should be in a professional environment. So you don't want a picture of yourself at the bar as your profile picture. You don't want a picture with all of your family members getting together as your profile picture. You don't want a picture of you surrounded in dogs or cats, or whatever your favorite animal is. For your experience section on LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you at the very least include the organizations that you've been a part of, what your title was while you were there, and what the time frame was that you were there. Whether or not you choose to add bullet points is up to you. If you do, you want to make sure that these focus on value metrics, as we discussed before, measurable contributions. And then you also want to make sure that you include your soft and hard skills. This is particularly important on LinkedIn because LinkedIn has a feature which allows your connections to endorse you for those skills. So someone could click on your profile and see a skill that you've listed and say, yes, I agree, and I will promote them for that skill. And I can demonstrate that in a moment. But first, we will go and review an example of a professional headline and personal about section, since, as I said, it is so very important. So this is an example that was provided by CNBC, and is based off of research done by Harvard. So here you can see in the professional headline, we have titles listed that gives a clear idea of what this individual is currently working on. So we see research scientist, PhD candidate, and data analytics. And then they also listed, where they're currently what industry they're currently working in. And then in their about section, they kind of elaborate a little further onto why they have chosen that area. So while your professional headline should be short and to the point, and explains the what. The about section should be a little more personable and it should explain the why. And then CNBC and Harvard gave their own summary of why they felt that this was a strong profile summary. So again, it is short, you can skim it quickly. It features key words and highlights the strengths and talents and interests of this individual. There are no spelling errors, and it provides further insight into what the interests of this individual are. So it goes beyond the individual profile of just the name. It provides that personable aspect and helps whoever is looking at your profile to get a better understanding of who you are and why you do it. So this is the section in which I will demonstrate for you how to kind of trick out your LinkedIn profile. So we will start with adding a background photo. Let me pull up my LinkedIn profile. Okay. So when you look at your profile, you will be able to, in the top section behind your main profile picture, add a photograph or a visual of some sort. So in order to add that, you'll want to click on this little edit pencil. And in my case, since I already have a photo there, I would have to go to change photo. But if you did not have a photo there, it would actually probably look more like a little Canva symbol instead of a pencil symbol. And then you would just select to upload a photo or to choose from one of the options that is currently supported by LinkedIn. So I currently have Stand for Justice. So then once you have it uploaded or chose the background you wanted, you would just hit save. And then it would appear. That's just a way to help make your profile again more personable or to help make you stand out. It's also a great way if you have a particular skill set that you want to highlight to do so. And if you are using your own personal photo for that background, you'll want a 104,000 by 425 pixel image. So next we have customizing your LinkedIn profile URL. So this appears on the upper right corner of your profile. So you click on Edit Public Profile and URL. And then again in the upper right corner, it'll allow you to customize your URL. So in this case, I have already customized mine. So it says /Miranda Mueller. I highly recommend to you that you make yours your name. Clearly for the, or solely for the purpose of reiterating your name and getting your name out there, but also just making it easier when you do share this URL with other individuals for them to find you. So again, you would click on the pencil icon, and then you could delete whatever series of letters and numbers were there and type in really whatever you want, so long as it's not already being used by another LinkedIn member. And then you would just save that. And then personalizing your LinkedIn connection request messages. All right, so let's say hello to my friend Jason. For those of you who don't know, Jason is the president of YNPN. So let's say that I want to connect with Jason on LinkedIn. So you would hit the connect button after you search for that individual's name and pull up their profile. And you'll get a little message once you hit connect, and it'll say an invitation is on its way. Would you like to add a note? So when you click add a note, this is how you're able to personalize that message that gets sent. So that way, instead of saying, I would like to connect with you on LinkedIn, it'll say whatever you type in here. So you could use this to say, hey, we met at blank, or I was really moved by blank that you were involved in. It's a way to make your act of reaching out more personable and to help kind of establish your relationship on the grounds if you have a past history with that individual already, or even if it's someone that you have not met, a way to explain why you would like to connect, and potentially causing for them to be more likely to connect with you on LinkedIn. Oh, and I should add that even though it says it's on its way, if you X out, it will cancel the connection request, so it won't actually get sent at that point. In fact, I might take that out. All right, and then our final pro tip is having a connection write a recommendation for you. So I recommend that you do this with a past supervisor, a client, or coworker. Anyone who can leave a positive note about you that will help make you stand out, make you maybe sound more credible or valuable to a future employer or organization. So you would do that, and I guess again I will bring up Jason. You will do that by again searching the name of the individual who you would like a recommendation from. You know what? I apologize. So you actually need to request a recommendation from someone that you are already connected with on LinkedIn. So in this instance, for the example, I am not connected with Jason, so therefore I cannot get a recommendation from Jason. But let's say that we wanted to get a recommendation from another individual. So let me bring up my profile here. So you could go through your personal connections, and you could, when you click on their profile, request a connection from them. So let's go with Daniel Blakemore, who actually helped to found YNPN Cable. So I am connected with Dan Blakemore on LinkedIn. So I have pulled up Dan's profile, and if I click on the more option, now I have the option to request that they provide a recommendation to me. So you would click on that and initiate the process for them to leave you a nice note on your profile. And so that would often come up in this main section if you have that listed. I don't think that Dan has one. Oh, here they are, sorry, a little further down. So in a further down section, it'll give recommendations. And then this is where whatever the individual you request a recommendation from will type, and it'll be present on your profile. Okay. So that is the end of the presentation I have for you today. I do appreciate you joining us. If you have any questions from this webinar, feel free to reach out to us, even though it is virtual. So we can be contacted via email, that is at ynpncleveland@gmail.com, via Facebook at ynpncleveland, or on LinkedIn.